Half-Life 1 is a very vague game. It's vague how exactly the game was intended to be played, it's vague whether or not Gordon is to blame for everything that happens, it's vague if G-Man is an ally or not. Hell, we can't even agree on if Gordon was wearing a helmet over the course of the game, or if the Gearbox expansions are canon. But above all else, the story is vague. Now, this isn't a bad thing at all, it's all part of the fun of the Half-Life series. On my recent video discussing the Combine in Half-Life 2, there were a handful of comments saying things like, "This video has so many leaps in logic," and as I said, that's part of the fun of the series. These games leave so much to the imagination. Any answer you come to about what is going on is going to have some major leaps in logic, and that right there is why it's so fun to discuss these games with friends all these years later. As mysterious as the state of humanity is in Half-Life 2, we're shown even less of what's really going on in Half-Life 1, and as many times as I've played, the finer details of the story are still incredibly vague in my mind. So viewer, let's try to sort out what exactly happened in Half-Life 1. Full spoilers ahead, and fair warning, I'll be touching on a couple of things that just straight up aren't represented in Black Mesa, the popular fan-made remake of Half-Life 1. And for the purposes of this video, I won't be considering the Gearbox expansions, Opposing Force, Blue Shift, and Decay, canon, and I won't be considering any lore that we discover in Half-Life 2. This video is just coming from the perspective of, it's 1998, you just installed this cool new game, what can we figure out about the story? We're going to be talking about everything from what the point of the rocket launch was, to what the hell the Nihilith is, to whether or not the Combine is in Half-Life 1. Obviously they weren't fleshed out or anything back in 98, but is there some force at play that would later become the Combine in Half-Life 2? Let's find out. Who knows, we might even figure out what G-Man's game is. So first off, let's go over what we can say for certain. Black Mesa was a government-funded research facility that was exploring teleportation technology. They discovered that a mysterious alien dimension, Zen, was in some way linked to teleportation, a sort of bridge they could use to cross from one place to the other. Amongst the extensive research that the discovery of Zen prompted were experiments on the aliens themselves. Gordon Freeman worked in the Anomalous Materials lab at Black Mesa, where he performed an experiment that involved emitting some sort of a beam into a crystal from Zen, and this caused a resonance cascade, which essentially opened the door for life from Zen to be teleported to Black Mesa, causing a major disaster for everyone in the facility. After a few hours, the military shows up and tries to contain the disaster by, well, killing everybody who knows anything. Gordon fights his way through the military, following the instructions of various Black Mesa employees in order to launch a rocket that's supposed to help end the resonance cascade. However, aliens continue teleporting in, eventually becoming a full-blown military invasion by the aliens. Gordon continues fighting through Black Mesa until eventually he reaches the Lambda laboratory, where he prevents a reactor meltdown by flooding it with coolant, and eventually is teleported directly into Zen, in order to kill some sort of powerful being that is apparently holding the portal open. In Zen, Gordon discovers that some aliens are being enslaved, and that the bulkier, more dangerous alien grunts are being manufactured in some sort of factory. Gordon kills a monster called the Nihilith, which clearly has some control over teleportation, and is swept away by a mysterious humanoid thing, which has been watching him this entire time. And this thing thanks him for helping his faction to take control of Zen, and puts him in stasis to fight for him again on some other day. So that's pretty much the surface level story. This is all the stuff that you're pretty likely to figure out after 1 or 2 playthroughs. But I've played through this game like at least 30 times, and there are still so many questions. What is the Nihilith? Why does it decide to invade Earth? How were these alien factories built? Why do these guys have handcuffs but the other aliens don't? Why does this rocket seemingly do nothing? What the hell is this thing we talk to at the end of the game? Well, most of these questions require a fair bit of speculation to answer, but I think we can find pretty satisfying answers to all of these questions, and really start to piece together what exactly Valve's intentions were for this story, and equally as interesting, what they were really trying to say with this game. Alright, so Gordon's teleportation experiment caused a resonance cascade, which is causing monsters to teleport in seemingly at random. Got it. These monsters are basically wild animals. They attack each other, they don't use any sort of nuanced tactics beyond pack hunting and occasionally lying in ambush. That's all well and good until we hear a banging behind this door. The alien slaves. For clarity's sake, we'll call them Vortigaunts. These guys are different than the head crabs and the bull squids and the hound eyes. First off, they aren't naked. They've got these green collars around their necks and matching cuffs on their hands. We saw them doing something to us at the moment of the resonance cascade. They cower in fear when they're wounded, they coordinate attacks against Gordon and the military. These things aren't just wild animals, there's something more to them. Of course, by Half-Life 2, we learn a lot more about the Vortigaunts, but still, what the hell are they supposed to be in this game? And if this is some sort of coordinated invasion of Earth, as their intellect suggests, then why are random wild animals teleporting in with them? Why do some teleportations seem totally random, and others seem like coordinated interdimensional flanks at Gordon's expense? Well, believe it or not, I think the answer goes a bit deeper than it's just for the sake of gameplay, and that answer begins with one of the most confusing parts of Half-Life 1's story, an aspect of the story that still seems weird, even after having played this game God only knows how many times: the rocket launch. Pretty much all that we learn about this rocket over the course of Half-Life 1 is what this guard tells us at the end of Power Up.
He said something about a Lambda team needing the satellite in orbit if they were ever going to clean up this mess.
Okay, so the rocket is supposed to help stop the aliens from teleporting in. Makes sense, but, well, it doesn't do that. If anything, the alien teleportation is more brutal than ever after the rocket is launched. However, there's one interesting fact here that I've never seen anyone talking about. Headcrabs, bull squids, hound eyes, they're all teleporting in basically at random. Sure, hound eyes and headcrabs tend to hunt in packs, and we see them grouping up together accordingly, but I mean, look at this. Or this. There are more examples, but I think you get me. This isn't some sort of a coordinated invasion at all. The Vortigaunts, however, that's a different story. Anytime we see them teleporting in, they're doing it in a way that makes tactical sense. Look at that footage I just showed again. They're teleporting in specifically to flank these two soldiers. By the way, I'm using the no target console command in a lot of these clips, essentially making me invisible to enemies. Anyways, we see the Vortigaunts setting up front lines and staging ambushes against Gordon and the soldiers. They even try that teleport flanking trick on Gordon a couple of times. These monsters, they're just appearing and wreaking havoc. The Vortigaunts, well, they're part of a full-fledged invasion of Black Mesa. So why does any of this matter, and what does it have to do with this rocket launch? Well, believe it or not, the alien teleportation gets a whole lot less random after this rocket launch. Seriously, this was just a random thought I had to try and justify the rocket launch, and I decided to go through the game, specifically trying to pay attention to the teleportation, and there's a very real shift in how the aliens teleport in after the rocket launch. Look at this, for instance. Right as we begin residue processing, we see this headcrab teleport in. Looks pretty random, right? Well, this is actually a distraction so that we get attacked by the second headcrab that teleports in right above Gordon. Or this bull squid a bit later. You can't tell me that this wasn't specifically intended to kill Gordon. Hell, they may have even been trying to telefrag him. The Vortigaunts and the Grunts get even more malicious with their teleporting too, like this one right here, who appears just as the catwalk beneath you collapses, and you cross a slippery floor. Or a bit later, we get a serious flank against Gordon from some more teleporting Vortigaunts, or right here when a group of them appears behind you, in a room you had previously cleared out. After the rocket launch, there were only like 2 more instances of monsters, by which I mean everything but grunts and vorts, teleporting in. From this point on, every instance of teleporting we see is clearly deliberate and tactical. So why does any of this matter? Well, one detail that I've always loved about the Half-Life series is how many innocent people Gordon inadvertently gets killed. I mean, you've got this elevator, this guy right here, most of the security guards and scientists that follow Gordon, and that's just in the first game. Plus, there's of course the unavoidable fact that Gordon played a major hand in the death of, well, literally everybody that dies in the entire Half-Life series, and that he helped cause the resonance cascade. Keep that idea of Gordon getting people killed in mind, it'll be important soon. Okay, so the rocket was supposed to stop the teleportation, but they keep on teleporting in. As we learn later in the game, this is because while the rocket closed the portal on our side, the Nihilanth is still holding the portal open on its side, in Zen. Well, it seems to me like Gordon closing the portal on our side is what prompted the Nihilanth to start its full-fledged invasion of Earth. When it became harder to maintain the portal, it realized that its time was limited, and that humans could indeed stop its plan if it didn't act fast. Everything we see here, it's a Hail Mary from the Nihilanth, trying to save as many of its species as it can, or kill all the humans involved, before it loses the opportunity that the resonance cascade gave it. So, obviously the game doesn't just give you the answers to any of this, it doesn't confirm any of this stuff, we're just speculating. We'll address that, but as long as we're speculating, we've got two big questions left to answer. First, what the hell is the Nihilith and what are its motives? And second, what the hell is this thing and what are its motivations? So, in true Half-Life fashion, it's easier to speculate about the giant flying god of teleportation space baby than it is to speculate about the man in a suit, so we'll start with the Nihilith. So what do we know so far? The Resonance Cascade allowed it to move its various organisms to Earth from this weird bridge dimension. It has some sort of insane powers of teleportation, allowing it to both hold a portal to Earth open and teleport Gordon at will, and it somehow coaxed these creatures to fight for it. There's more here, but for now, let's go over some relevant facts. First, this alien armada uses biological life as vehicles, sometimes modifying them when necessary, such as the mana rays that both mine and zen and airdrop aliens into Black Mesa, or the alien grunts themselves. They even have a factory to manufacture these soldiers. Second, the Vortigaunts are seemingly mind-controlled, since the factory workers don't attack Gordon unless provoked. It's safe to assume that these grunts are also being mind-controlled as well, or have been bred to have minimal free will and just fight. Before we go ahead and say that this is all the Nihilith's doing, let's go over some more obscure ideas. So first off, something that I've never heard anyone talking about. A detail that's on your screen right now but that you probably haven't noticed. A detail so subtle that it wasn't even present in Black Mesa. The Nihilith's third arm has been grafted onto it. The alien controllers, which highly resemble the Nihilith straight down to the splitting head and the energy ball attacks, have a natural third arm, but not the Nihilith. Not to mention, the Nihilith almost literally says that it's the last of its kind.
The last. I am the last.
This thing isn't the same species as the alien controllers. Plus, there's the obvious modifications made to its lower half, and most damning of all, the cuffs. In my mind, there are two ways of interpreting these handcuffs. Theory 1, whatever force is controlling the Vortigaunts through these cuffs is also controlling the Nihilith. The Nihilith has so much agency over the course of this game, though, that I doubt this one. Plus, it doesn't explain the third arm. Theory 2, however, makes a bit more sense to me. The cuffs are what allow the Nihilith to control the Vortigaunts. This would totally explain the third arm. It's been grafted on the Nihilith to make it, well, let's say to make it compatible with the Vortigaunts. That one makes more sense to me, but it raises one big question. Who the hell grafted this third arm onto the Nihilith? Who put the cuffs on it? Who added all of this stuff to its lower half? Well, everyone I've talked to about this said that it probably just gave itself those enhancements. But, well, listen to this line.
Their slaves we are, their slaves we are.
Yep, this thing goes deeper than the Nihilith. Now, I'm not going to say that Valve had planned out the Combine and the Advisors and the Combine overworld and all of that. That'd be ridiculously cool, but ridiculous nonetheless. All I'm saying is that there is some sort of force at play here, even more powerful than the Nihilith, and it's taken control of various alien species, going so far as to enslave them and modify them with technology to better suit their needs. They manufacture soldiers and they have only a loose control over teleportation, needing humans to do some of the work for them. These guys are a whole lot like the Combine would turn out to be. Back to the modifications, in the case of the Nihilith, this seems to be a creature modified to be able to maintain control over the Vortigaunts. So whether this all-powerful force that's enslaved the Nihilith would later become Half-Life 2's Combine or not, I'll leave up to you. Personally, I think that's absolutely the case. Regardless, we've still got some more questions. The big one is simply whether or not this force is the one invading Earth, or if the Nihilith was acting independently. We're getting very deep into speculation here, and having to keep up with a whole lot of very subtle and impossible to confirm lore. Here's a fun fact to break the pace. When you get the Hive Hand, you'll pretty quickly learn that it's actually able to shoot around corners, and it has infinite ammo. If you then decide to fire it around corners every now and then to safely check for enemies, you might find that it actually triggers this sentry gun, helping you to avoid its otherwise dangerous sneak attack. Anyways, is this massive force that I'll just call the Combine for familiarity's sake the ones invading Earth in Half-Life 1, or is the Nihilith invading Earth on its own? Well, given that we know that the Combine are fans of mind control in this game, and that the Nihilith is able to communicate to Freeman that it's been enslaved, I'm going to say that it's acting independent of the Combine. However, it still has these factories where it manufactures soldiers, it still uses mana rays to mine the terrain of Zen and transport troops, so what the hell? Well, with that last question, we've gotten all the background out of the way. Buckle up, because I'm about to lay down my grand interpretation of all of this lore, and give you my take on the entirety of Half-Life 1's story, all in one go. At some point in the past, the Combine conquered the Nihilith species and killed off all but one of them.
Last, I am the last.
It kept this last Nihilith around in order to modify it, grafting a third arm onto it, so that they could use its mind control powers to gain control over the Vortigaunts, some other species from some other planet that it had conquered. It used these Vortigaunts as light infantry and as slaves, to create more subjects, or to do anything else that they may have needed biological labor for. At some point, the Nihilith used its teleportation powers to transport as many of the Combine's slaves as possible to Xen, a bridge dimension between points in space that the Combine is unable to get to on its own. Once in Xen, the Nihilith used its control over the Vortigaunts to build factories in which to manufacture soldiers, appointing an allied species, the alien controllers, to watch over these factories and play foreman. Using these factories, it slowly started building up its army so that it would be ready for anything. The Nihilith was just hiding from the Combine, growing up enough power to eventually take them on, or run away to where they couldn't follow. At some point, a bit later, on Earth, scientists at Black Mesa discovered a way to travel into Xen, and started collecting samples. They started doing experiments on the alien life, and on Xen crystals, both of which could be found all over the place in Xen. One day, young MIT graduate Gordon Freeman was a part of one of these experiments, and this one went wrong. It caused a resonance cascade scenario, which opened up a portal between Earth and the crystal's home dimension, Xen. This caused alien species to teleport in at random and wreak havoc on Black Mesa. The Nihilith, with its great control over teleportation, sent some of its Vortigaunts in to probe this new place. But by the time it had confirmed that the Combine wasn't here, Gordon had already taken measures to close the portal and end the resonance cascade. He fired a rocket into space, which allowed the Lambda team to close the portal on our side. This stopped the random teleportation of aliens, but it forced the Nihilith to maintain the portal entirely on its own. It couldn't keep this up forever, and it knew that Gordon, or some other human, would continue trying to close the portal, so it began a full-fledged military invasion of Black Mesa to try and stop the humans from ruining this opportunity to get as far away from the Combine as possible. Gordon was one of the few survivors of the Nihilith's invasion of Black Mesa, and he eventually made it to the teleportation chamber in Black Mesa and traveled to Xen, where he fought his way through the soldier manufactories, and eventually to the Nihilith's chamber, where he killed it, thus destroying any chance that the aliens we fought over the course of the game had of starting anew and living a life that wasn't dominated by the Combine. Then, Gordon gets abducted by a space god. The G-Man scene in Half-Life 1 reminds me of something that I haven't really touched on yet in this video. Half-Life 1 has never been a game about interdimensional politics or an alien underground railroad or manufactured alien soldiers battling against human soldiers or any of that. Half-Life 1 as a whole is about one thing: humans trying to conquer forces that are beyond their comprehension, and then doing their best to clean it up when that inevitably backfires. It's a classic Icarus story. Mankind's hubris turned out to be its downfall. As much as I'd love to conclude this video by pinpointing exactly where G-Man sits in the lore, discussing his history and motivations, that just plain isn't possible. Or if it is, it's well beyond me. I just spent about 18 minutes dissecting every single intricate detail of this game's story, and I don't have the slightest clue what G-Man's angle is. We know that he and his employers wanted control of Xen, which probably means that they wanted the Nihilith dead. We know that he was in Black Mesa before the resonance cascade, probably meaning that he either caused it or knew ahead of time that it was going to happen. But that's about all I got, at least in terms of what Half-Life 1 tells us. Just about everything I've said over the course of this video was pure speculation. That's half the fun of Half-Life. It's the reason videos like this are still cropping up 23 years after the game's launch. We're all just, well, trying to speculate on affairs that are beyond our comprehension. We're no different than the humans in the game. We're just trying to understand ideas that we couldn't possibly understand. The most important word in the entirety of Half-Life 1 is spoken by G-Man in the final minutes of the game.
I have recommended your services to my employers.
Employers. That's what this is all about. This teleportation master organism, it's not the bottom of the iceberg. It's running scared from some all-powerful alien conglomerate. That all-powerful alien conglomerate isn't the bottom of the iceberg either. We can pinpoint a lot of key facts about it just in this first game. Then you've got G-Man, this godlike thing that we really don't know anything about. We don't know if it's a friend to humanity or an enemy. We have no idea what it actually looks like. We have no idea if it caused the resonance cascade or if it's just some Black Mesa employee who was subject to about 1 million scientific breakthroughs, or if it's an alien, or what. We are absolutely clueless about this thing, and yet, in this final spine-chilling moment, we learn that even this thing has employers. And you know what? I'll bet that this thing's employers are just subcontractors to some even bigger space conglomerate, and that even they have forces that they bow to, and so on and so on and so on. Humanity might have been able to invent teleportation, but we're single-celled organisms compared to the questions out there in the universe. We will never know what is truly going on behind the scenes in the world of Half-Life, because the world of Half-Life is one in which humanity opened the door to questions that absolutely no human could ever answer. Before I close out this week's video and get to work on figuring out what I'm going to do next, I'd like to go ahead and verbally thank my patrons, especially those who are donating $10 or more monthly, such as Ada Avery, Almost Dead Again, Anatoly Volnov, Andrew Melnick, Antoine DeGuet, Benny, Big Time Jim, Bobby Blitz, CJ Keene, Chompy Uwu, Christopher Pinar, Colin Gajic, Cosmo Borski, Darius Fazier, David Kaiser, Dennis Vashakhammer, sorry for my German, Dominic Johann, Duncan Bristow, Fralum, Giles Backers, iDubbbz, IJK, Jack Eisenberg, Jano, Kale Graybill, Crit, Laffy, Mello, Mixer Rules, Neurofilter, Raptor, Robert, Scotty from Marketing, CeeLo, Tanman, Vivian Cox, Vladimir's Nordholm, William T., Keen Vo, Yemen Shi, Zoe Nish, and Zyra Obli. If you're on the Discord or my Twitter, you might have caught wind of this, but I think I'm going to be switching to doing these proper video essays every 2 weeks. To fill the newly vacated air, I'm going to be trying something a little bit different, where I just do 5 or 6 minute recommendations on games I like. No poetic analysis stuff or anything like that, no spoilers, just me saying, hey, you should really play this game. I've just found myself a little bit drained right now with all of the things going on in my life, and I'm just not very good at focusing on multiple big things at once, and there have been a lot of big things lately. So anyways, thank you for your patience, and have a great week.